What the Tech is sponsored by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create a professional website, blog, portfolio, and now an online store. Check out the new commerce solution so you can get started selling your stuff immediately. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on a new account, go to squarespace.com/whatthetech and use offer code WhatTheTech3. Carbonite Online Backup. Automatic, continual, and unlimited backups for your computer. Try it for free at Carbonite.com and use offer code WhatTheTech and get 2 bonus months with purchase.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarian. I'm joined by the American Dream, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Wow. I am living the American dream.
You are. Not a common man, though. You're not a common man. You're a very special man.
Special needs, maybe. Right? I don't know.
So, Paul, you're wearing a blue shirt today.
That's weird.
And our logo's blue. And your wall is blue, and so is mine. And for the rest of the studio, I think there's going to be a common theme today, and it's going to be blue. Microsoft Windows Blue. I guess it's a code name, Windows Blue. They're not going to go with that, are they?
No, they actually said today that they're not.
Are you surprised that Microsoft kind of acknowledged it? Are you surprised that they acknowledged it this fast after a quote unquote leak?
Well, I mean, this name's been bumping around for a couple of months now, thanks to Mary Jo Foley. She was the first one that talked about it and
such a
said
troublemaker.
This was the code name. I know, she's a rabble-rouser. And I mean, there was a leak this past weekend. There have been various, news events around it. I mean, leaks of information, I guess I would call them. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it was timed specifically because there were 2 announcements today. They announced that, yes, as part of our commitment to keep this current generation of software and services updated on a regular rolling basis, a new way of doing things, that the next major update is codenamed Blue. So they confirmed that. And then in a separate blog post, they said, oh, and by the way, we're going to talk about all our new stuff in late June at the next Build conference.
And that's great. That's great. It's very exciting. I've been pretty honest about my feelings about Windows 8, and I have almost the same issues you do, Paul, but I'm not using it every day like you are. I've actually been trying to use it a lot more because my wife's laptop is Windows 8, so when she's not home, I'll take the laptop and I'll start playing around with it, and just so I know what I'm talking about when I'm doing the show with you. But
sure,
there are inconsistencies, and some of them are that some settings are in desktop and they're not in the new UI.
Right.
And I saw from the videos that I viewed and some of the reviews that I read about the early build of Blue, some of that stuff is coming over to Metro.
Yes.
Like the personalization and some of the settings. So it kind of goes consistent with what you were saying about how they just probably ran out of time and they didn't add it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that obviously they had to ship Windows 8 and RT at whatever point, and there are dates associated with that where you can't put anything new into it by whatever point, and the intention all along was for Windows, just Windows, we'll call it, to have a complete Metro environment where you could pretty much do everything from that environment, not have to go to the desktop. And they got partway there with Windows 8 RT. They're going to get a little further again, with Blue. And then I would imagine by the next release, that will be the one where things get interesting because either the desktop literally goes away, which I don't actually anticipate, but maybe it becomes optional. Maybe it's something that they actually leave off by default in the RT version of Windows 9 or whatever they call that.
Or unless they put they do something like desktop is inside of Metro.
Yeah. Sure.
It's almost like a
sure. Well, that's the other half of the fence. And so we only see in Blue updates to Metro. There literally are no updates to the desktop to speak of in this release. But one of the things I've been talking about, though, is just this notion that there's no reason the desktop can't evolve too. Why can't there be some kind of formalized Win32 way of doing full screen apps that can get their hooks into certain Metro features and sort of appear as pseudo Metro apps. I mean,
but that's been the argument. That's been the argument all around, right? Well,
Yeah.
if they were going to take that path, why did they just split Windows into two separate things almost on one machine?
Well, because it goes back to the same argument. I mean, Microsoft could have come out with a product called Metro that was a touch-based tablet system that nobody would have wanted. Developers would not have adopted it as quickly as they have. Users would not have adopted it as quickly as they have. It just wouldn't have taken off in the market.
I mean, the biggest uphill battle they have is supporting Win32 apps. They can't. It's going to be a long time for them to kill desktop, considering how many applications rely on that on that user interface.
Yeah, I mean, they're not Apple, right? Remember when Apple made the switch from classic OS 9 or whatever to OS 10, they did it in some interesting steps. And there was a classic environment that ran inside OS 10, so you could at least run those apps in kind of a slow, not quite emulated, but almost emulated type mode. And eventually that thing became optional, and eventually that thing went away. And for some small subset of users, that was a problem because in the early days, remember, Photoshop was not available in OS 10. That's a major app on the Mac platform, as it is on Windows. And you need that kind of stuff, for that operating system to continue. But at some point, we're going to reach the point where Microsoft makes that step as well. They're not as aggressive as Apple, so.
And they can't. I mean, they can't be. They can't be that aggressive because look at the market share that they have compared to what Apple has. Apple could kind of say, "Screw you. We're not going to have Photoshop for 8 months. You can't do that on Windows."
No.
I mean, that would be suicide for them at that point. Do you see anything? Because this is really Build is going to kind of outline what their plan is with Windows and what they're going to do over the next year or two with it. Mm-hmm. Is Windows 9 going to be something that comes years down the line where they're going to do these incremental yearly updates where it's Windows 8, but it's an update for Windows 8?
No, there'll be a Windows 9. I mean, I think the parallel to draw here, there's a couple. If you know your history of Windows, I guess there are two things I would point to that suggest how they could do this. Because actually, I should say before I get into that, I mean, this is a new way of doing things too. I mean, they're treating Windows like an online service, something that can be updated over time. And there have been little attempts at doing this before in the past, but this is a big one. So the two things from the past that I think are relevant here are what we used to call the OSR releases of Windows 95. And so, Windows 95, same thing. It was a brand new system. Not everything kind of worked and not everything was right. And so between that release and Windows 98, they actually released 2 or 3 OSR updates to Windows 95. And back then in those days, there were still floppy drives around and things like that. And so the OSR updates were designed solely for PCs. And so the only way you could get one was if you bought a new computer. And so maybe a year and a half after Windows 95 shipped, you bought a new, gateway computer or whatever.
And it came with the updates.
It could come with OSR 2.5 or whatever the version number was. The other one, though, kind of comparison is Service Pack 2 for Windows XP. If Microsoft hadn't suffered from such an amazing security issue, which triggered this trustworthy computing initiative, Windows XP Service Pack 2 would have been a release of Windows that people paid for. But instead, they released it as a service pack, and they gave it away for free. And I think that is an interesting way to look at Blue as well, because I think of Blue as a service pack / feature pack, something that has new features plus bug fixes. And it's something that I believe that Microsoft will give away for free, or at worst charge a very small amount for. But honestly, there's a compelling case to be made for giving this away for free. And it's not that Windows 8 is so horribly incomplete and immature that they have to do it. I honestly think that if they didn't give it away for free, it would fracture the market too much, because I think there's going to be I know there's going to be new APIs, programming tools, and that asking developers to target 2 versions of Windows 8 is too much. And I think they're going to have to give it away. Just make it seamless where everyone can just update to the new version and not worry about it.
I'm curious about, this is an early build that got leaked online, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious on, do you think there's going to be any more feature changes rather than just any UI changes compared to feature changes that they're adding when
You mean
comparatively with what they've been doing?
You mean different from what's already in there?
Different than what's already out there, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more to it. But the thing that's interesting about what's in there now is that, obviously there was sort of a regime change at Microsoft at the end of last year when Steven Sinofsky left the company. But I think the people making Windows are still operating on the same kind of schedule, same kind of methodology as under Sinofsky. And if you were to go back and look at early versions of Windows 7, early versions of Windows 8, and compare them to the versions that eventually shipped, they were really close. And I actually do believe if you look at Blue right now, that's pretty much it, right? I don't mean to say that there won't be some new things, right? Because obviously things get added over time. But I think when you look at that, that is their vision of what Windows 8 plus 1 year can look like.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm excited to see what they're going to be doing. I think the biggest uphill battle for them has been multitasking in the new UI. And they have done some changes to that, right? Where you can fit more apps
to
on
a ridiculous degree, by the way. So, when you run this thing in a VM, which is the way I initially installed it, what you see there is that, if you know how Snap works today, you get this weird kind of column on the edge of the screen, and it's fixed width, which you knew as soon as you realized the thing is fixed width, you knew that was temporary. There's no way that whatever the pixel count is, 326 pixels or whatever it is, was going to last. Like, that's ridiculous. And so you install this in a VM, and what you see is that you can split the screen 50-50 right down the middle. And so you can have one on the left, one on the right. You're like, wow, okay, that's a fairly obvious, change, and that makes some sense and everything. But I always sort of thought, Metro apps written correctly can auto layout, right? So that if the screen resolution changes or the aspect ratio changes, which if you think about it is a pretty dramatic change, right? That the text and everything can just relay out if it's written a certain way, if it's created a certain way. And then it seems like you should be able to arbitrarily resize those dividers.
Sure.
As it turns out, you can. I don't know if you saw this, but Rafael Rivera, who wrote Windows 8 Secrets with me, tried to see how high he could get it to go. So someone had discovered that you could have more than 2 snap areas. You could have 3 or 4, and it seemed like 4 was the maximum. But actually 4 is the maximum if you're running it like...
Where does he have this on? It's on Twitter?
Yeah, he put it on Twitter probably a day or two ago. He bumped his resolution up to some crazy number, like 3840 by... I don't even remember anymore. And when he did that, what he discovered was that, and this is real, so people are asking, was this a joke? Did he, Photoshop this? No, he did this. He had 7 snap areas. And so that's ludicrous. I mean, obviously, like 7 columns of really tall, skinny apps. Is stupid.
But why not? I mean,
but the point is that it's they're letting you do whatever you want now.
But why not just have it sounds silly, but like how you have the in Metro, there it is. Raphael, I think, posted it in the chat room, so I could take a look at it and put it up on the video now. So I was searching for that. Let's see, where is it? There he goes. Yeah, this is a lot of
3840 by 2400.
There you go. I mean, that's a lot going on.
No one's going to work like that. I mean, that's dumb. But the point of it is that Microsoft is clearly, they're not setting limits now, right? They're just saying, look,
do whatever you want.
You can go nuts with it. Yeah.
But do you think? I mean, do you actually think that that's the way to do multitasking on there, or it's still missing?
No, I
it's
think
still
this
missing.
Is ludicrous. But
so what? I mean, how can they fix it in Metro when really it's kind of set up like it's a tablet where you have an app running and then you could go to your other apps when you're done with that?
I don't think there's any change that needs to occur. I think the way it works now is fine. Excellent. So if you're using a tablet, you can flick, go through your apps. you can flick and hold, and you can get a list of your apps and pick the one from the list. I actually think that the multitasking, I think we should call it task switching capabilities in that Metro environment are fine, right, the way they are.
Because that's been the biggest.
Can run in the background.
When people complain to me, I mean, that's one of the biggest things. They're like, well, I like to have 4,000 things on my desktop, and I can't do that when I'm in Metro. And I kind of say, well, that's not the point of it.
So, right. And so for people like me, I talk about this all the time. I have a big desktop screen, big desktop computer, keyboard, mouse, and I'm not touching anything. Metro to me is useless. When you install utilities like the modern mix utility from Stardock that allows you to run Metro apps in a window, all of a sudden that becomes interesting for people like me. And I don't think that it changes in Blue. Like, I think that will still work fine. I don't expect Microsoft to add this capability. I also don't expect them to block it, so that third parties can create these utilities. And all of a sudden I can use these apps. And so, on a high resolution screen, Metro apps running in Windows, like Xbox Music or Xbox Video, the weather app, the mail app now that it's been updated, calendar and so forth. Like, all of a sudden these apps are fine. They make sense.
Yeah.
So I think basically everyone has something that kind of works for them, and we're getting to a good place.
Yeah, I think it's going to take time to get used to it still, and I think an update like Blue, it's going to kind of help put the missing pieces in the new UI. But I'm not going to expect a total changeover from this update. I mean, we're still a good year or two away from it being what people kind of want.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, one of the things I wrote an editorial for Windows IT Pro that, kind of aimed at that audience, because in that audience, a lot of people don't like Metro. They just don't like it. And, the bad news for those people from the Blue perspective is that this update doesn't change anything. It's more of the stuff you don't like. Sorry. I mean, because, Microsoft is serious when they say this is the future. It doesn't mean it's the present. I mean, we have computers that are, don't have touch and everything, and we get work done in desktop apps. That stuff's not going away quickly. But, when you look at Blue, you realize there is not a single concession in there to the desktop at all. Like, there is nothing in there. Nothing. Not even one thing where you're like, wow, okay.
But do you think they're going to add anything, or is this their initiative? Is this their strategy for the future of Windows, where they're just going to let it sit the way it is?
I don't know. I mean, my guess is that they're not going to. They're not really going. They're going to keep going in this direction.
The majority of people are using desktop. Do you think more people are using Metro now if they're getting a new computer? I think majority of them going into desktop are using the applications that they're used to.
I think Microsoft's plan was that when Windows 8 shipped, most of the PCs running this system would be touchscreen. And that when we looked at the market a year down the road, what we would find out is that 75% of Windows 8 users were, in fact, using touch-based computers. I think the reason that Microsoft was so upset with the PC makers over that launch period was that wasn't what they sold.
That wasn't the case.
Regular PCs. Because you can walk into Best Buy right now and spend $279 on a non-touch Dell Pentium-based computer that probably runs Windows 8 pretty well, by the way.
Yeah.
But has no touch, and that's not what they were looking for.
And the reality is, you're not going to have the same you're not going to have the right experience if you're not on a touch device.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it works, but if you have a tablet, a touch screen, whatever. That's when Windows 8 starts.
I've told the story before, Paul, and I said it last week. My wife's Windows 8 laptop, it's not a touchscreen. It's multi-gesturing trackpad. It's a Lenovo. And their swipe fingerprints all over the thing, because her mind automatically goes to swipe it back and forth. And she says, she's like, this thing, I wish I could just swipe. I'm like, I should have gotten you a touchscreen, but there wasn't a lot available at Christmas. And that was a fact.
Right.
No, especially at that $500 price point, it was non-existent.
Yeah, there still aren't many that are great. I get this email all the time. Like, okay, there's this selection of stuff out there. What do you recommend? And it's like, I mean, it's kind of tough because I don't really think that any of them are truly great.
No, I still think there's something missing with all of them, and that's the problem that Microsoft has always had with the OEMs. They've always had this problem. They always will have this problem when the OEM wants to make as much money as possible. We're putting in as little as possible into the computer. They don't want to. They want to charge you. You know what? You could go and have a great experience on a Windows 8 touchscreen laptop, a high-end Ultrabook. It's going to cost you about $1,200-$1,300. But it's almost like Microsoft, in order to have a phenomenal experience on this thing, you got to be on a higher-end computer.
Well, it's too bad that we think of it that way. You have to be on a touchscreen computer, which is a higher end.
Which is a higher end computer, yeah. I forgot who it was. One of my friends bought a Windows 8 laptop. I mean, lower end one, and the trackpad was. Again, this is my obsession with the trackpad. It was awful. I couldn't do any multi-gesturing. I couldn't do two fingers scrolling on Metro. Every time I would do it, it was just stuttering.
Right.
Because the trackpad's awful. And he kept telling me, he's like, what am I going to do? I'm like, you got to get a mouse. And that's awful because the person using it automatically will say...
the worst thing that ever happened to PCs.
You hate it. I know you hate it.
Windows 8, they have only gotten worse, in my opinion.
But, I mean, my wife's laptop has a phenomenal trackpad.
I have never used something I would call phenomenal, like a trackpad that I would call phenomenal. I mean, but...
On the Macs, they're pretty good. The MacBook Pro has a really good trackpad.
Yeah. There's something... They did something right. Obviously, they use glass trackpads, but it's not just the hardware. It's... They do a good job with gestures in the Mac. I mean, it's something you have to learn. It's not intuitive or anything, but they do a pretty good job with that stuff. Yeah.
Paul, I want to take a little break, and then I want to talk to you about the strategy for Microsoft after Build and what you think we could expect at Build this year.
Okay.
It seems pretty exciting, and the buzz around this is almost like when people are like, oh, Apple's releasing an iPhone again. Like, people are actually excited about Build and what the layout is going to be. So I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to this. Yeah.
But I want to take a little break and talk about our sponsor, Squarespace. What do I have to say about it? I think Raphael in the chat room was just saying he's moving his site to Squarespace because he's having a problem with his website. And it's fast and easy to use. I mean, this is the great thing about Squarespace. It's almost no hassle, no thinking needed. You want a website. You set it up depending on what you want. It's great for photographers. It's great for bloggers. And now you could even create an online store via Squarespace, which for anybody that has entered the online retail market to create an online store, it's one of the worst things ever because it's going to cost you a ton of money to do it right, a ton of money to have a safe website. And with Squarespace, they handle all that work. No hassle needed. If you go to squarespace.com/whatthetech and use offer code whatthetech3, you get 10% off on your first purchase with a new account. So it's a great way to try it out, and they give you a free trial on top of that. So if it's something, you give it a test run, you see if you like it. If it's not for you, you know what? You don't need to stick around with them. There's no credit card needed, none of that stuff. They don't ask for any of that. Also, one great part about Squarespace, and I want to say before we wrap this up, when you're using Squarespace, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. If you're on an iPad, if you're on your phone, if you're on a laptop, it scales the site for you. So you don't have to worry about, is my website compatible with an iPad, or is it going to be compatible on my iPhone? What is it going to look like? It's able to scale the images and the site down and up, depending on what you're using. So the user experience is going to be pretty much the same all across all platforms. Again, go to squarespace.com/whatthetech for your free trial. And if you sign up, use offer code whatthetech3 and get 10% off your first purchase on a new account. I want to thank Squarespace for supporting What the Tech. Now, Paul, I want to talk about Build. I'm excited about Build.
I'm really excited about Build.
I don't think I was that excited last year about Build.
I'm always excited about Build, but I think it's interesting. People always talking about how Microsoft is circling the drain or something, and they announce something like Build, and like the whole world is like not the whole world, but the whole, the tech part of it is, all tizzy over it. And they clearly still have the power to draw people in.
What do you expect from this year? Do you think it's going to have a different feel than previous years? Because now Windows 8 is out here. It's been interesting, I'm assuming, for the developers to kind of develop for Windows 8. Are they happy? Are the developers happy with the way that it's gone for them? Or is Microsoft happy with the developers?
Nobody's happy.
Nobody's happy with anything. Okay.
I think it's just
That's
fair
fine.
to say. But you know what? This is the grand consolidation, I think. You can look at the Build website and you see the logos of the, I guess, 7 products that all are tied together. And it's Windows, Windows Phone, Windows Azure. Server should be in there as well, by the way. Internet Explorer, Office 365, Xbox, and Visual Studio. And I've actually already gotten a bunch of people from Twitter who were like, Xbox is an interesting choice. Why is Xbox in there? I think I've said this before. I don't know if I said it on this podcast, but Microsoft is going to announce the next Xbox in April, and a June reveal of the developer story for the new Xbox would be pretty logical. And I expect it to be based on the same stuff that they're already doing for Windows 8 and for Windows Phone 8. And that this is the place where these things all come together. That not that we're going to get one set of APIs for all of them. We are going to get one set of developer tools, though, through Visual Studio.
But I mean, that's the thing that's the thing that makes sense right now with especially with Xbox, because you really can't develop for Xbox, can you?
No, you can.
You can, but I mean, it's not.
It's not that expensive, actually. So they have sort of an enthusiast developer program. It's about, I think it's $99 a year. I believe it's XNA based, which we know is going away. You can't make Xbox Live, or actually, I'm not even sure, but I shouldn't say this. I'm not positive about how this works. But, obviously to create a professional Xbox game, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars. It's a big deal. It's obviously aimed at big companies and so forth. But yeah, you as an enthusiast, yes, you could in fact use Visual Studio to create games that run on the Xbox. You could test them next to your computer and all that stuff. You can actually do that.
Okay.
But it's just, but I expect this to become a bigger deal going forward.
Do you think it's going to become a bigger thing? Like if I want to create a Twitter app to run on Xbox, I can now.
I do. Yeah.
I had a chat with someone from over there, and they're hoping this is the case. I mean, I'm sure they can't really say it, but for app developers, I mean, the money is really in developing an application where people are going to be able to download or purchase. And unless you're a game developer, there's not too many options on the current generation Xbox.
Right.
But with that said, I mean, it's how old is this thing already? The
Xbox?
I mean, it's quite a few years old. So
Right.
obviously, the whole app craze hadn't kicked in. I mean, it was a different company, different strategy.
It's from a different era, yeah.
I mean, and it's amazing, right? How it shifted over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Total shift in priorities.
People forget this, but when the original, the 360 was a dual processor Power PC thing, and that was a super powerful mega computer that they really stripped down with OS wise to something that could basically only do one thing at a time, because that's what video game machines are. There are things that do one thing really, really well. And so the big difference with this next generation is that this thing is going to be more like a PC. It's going to multitask, and it's going to do lots and lots of things at the same time by design. And I believe that this build is going to be a part of this build, I should say, is going to be about the developer opportunity for writing apps on the next Xbox. And that's the big differentiator, by the way, between this year and last year, because we all knew that the last couple of builds were, they were about Windows 8.
Windows 8 and Windows, Windows Phone 8, they mentioned that.
Yeah, but it was Windows 8.
Yeah.
And this one very clearly is not. It is about Windows, of course, and there'll be new stuff in Blue and all that, but it is really about all of these platforms. It's about the whole Microsoft stack, and that's what the developer show should be.
Are we going to get any? Are they going to kind of lay out what their plan is with Windows Phone at this year's build, or are we going to kind of primarily focus on the app development for Windows and Xbox?
So I just was talking with Mary Jo about this, because for the past couple of years, in June-ish, Microsoft has had an event where they talk about the next version of Windows Phone. And I said, it doesn't really make sense for them to do that if they're going to have PDC. I mean, why not build rather? Why not just announce it there? And her opinion was that Windows Phone Blue, the next version of Windows Phone 8, is going to happen late enough that maybe this isn't the best time for that. And my opinion is that they would be crazy not to do this at this time, at least to announce it. It's just, we're all there already. Why would they not do that? But we don't know. So
it's interesting how they've unified every, all their kind of brands are now unified into one. If you look at it, they've combined all these companies that were always separate. Now it's always, it's one kind of way of thinking for their products, and that's the best thing they could possibly do.
This is way overdue for Microsoft. You've probably seen that infamous org chart of Microsoft where all the businesses have guns pointed at everyone else.
Yeah.
Microsoft's biggest strength right now, frankly, is that they have all this stuff. If you're a user of Office and Windows, they should be selling you on Windows Phone. They should be selling you on Xbox. I mean, this stuff all ties together.
I mean, they have a huge advantage, Paul. They have a huge advantage in the console world. Yes, they have an advantage because everybody wants to play Xbox Live, and the Sony experience is awful playing it online. But regardless of the gaming experience, if they open up the Xbox to developers to develop applications like they would develop on Windows Phone and Windows 8, it will totally change the market, and they could really control the living room. Because right now, Apple's not doing that. You really can't do that with Apple. I mean, Roku's doing it, but when you compare Roku to Microsoft, I think Microsoft could do a far better job than Roku. So really, they are going to be the instrumental unit in your living room that connects everything.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, just doing it doesn't make it a success, right? I mean, obviously, Apple looked at the success they had with the iOS developer program and the App Store, and they said, let's do this for the Mac. And, it hasn't made a difference. I mean, they did the Mac App Store exactly the way they should, same high quality, all the stuff you would expect. And, it hasn't really moved the needle on the Mac at all. That said, if Apple were to open that thing up for Apple TV, I bet that would be fairly significant. Not as big as iPhone/iPad, but I think that they could have some success there. Likewise, I think Microsoft, if there are developers who are on the fence about developing for Windows 8, because, I don't know, new APIs, new system, we don't know. And, well, it's in Windows Phone, basically the same thing. Yeah, I don't know.
But we're not.
It's on the Xbox.
But we're not talking about apps that work on, your Windows 8 device, and then you could actually run it on the Xbox. We're not talking about that.
No, but all it has to do is, well, actually,
because that would be phenomenal.
To be fair, you could write a game that runs on Windows 8, a game in C++, using that set of APIs. That game would be incredibly easy to port to Windows Phone 8. That is a minimal change from a code perspective, the most minimal. I would imagine that, in fact, they would be crazy not to allow developers to do that for the Xbox as well. And so that's not apps, that's games, but that's the primary mission of the Xbox. And the value proposition of having one project in Visual Studio where you can target those three different systems. And again, I'm sort of stretching things a little bit, but you sort of imagine a future where it's like, you check the boxes. Yes, I want a Windows 8 version. I want a Windows RT version. I want a Windows Phone version. I want to support these resolutions. And I want an Xbox version. Click, compile. I don't think we're going to get there in October or anything, but I mean, that's an exciting proposition for developers. And so the closer they can get to that, the better. And I think they would be crazy not to allow that. Likewise, why wouldn't a Twitter app on the Xbox be modeled after a Twitter app that's on Windows 8?
Absolutely, yeah.
Where in addition to, I should say not in addition, but instead of, multi-touch, you have Connect, where you're, in voice control. So,
I mean, there's a lot that they're going to be able to do.
But I don't see any reason why this couldn't happen.
There's no, yeah, absolutely. But the thing that I find the most fascinating about this is that, in the perfect world, you're going to be able to take your tablet, your Windows 8 tablet, hit Xbox, and possibly play your games on the tablet, or access whatever you're doing on this is going to show it on the TV. That is, in the perfect world, that's what I want to happen.
They talked that up as long ago as the original Windows Phone 7 announcement, where they had this game where they said, look, there's a version on the Xbox. It was written in XNA. There's a version on Windows Phone 7 written in XNA. And there's a version for Windows written in XNA. And that the code differences between those things are fairly minimal, right? There's no reason they can't do this right now with everything they have. So it depends on the next Xbox having a version of the WinRT. You know, maybe they'll call it Win XRT or whatever.
Oh, God.
You know, those APIs tailored for the Xbox. Why not?
Yesterday, I posted an image that was sent to me, and like an idiot, I made the mistake and didn't say like possible question mark. Like I didn't question it on Twitter.
Yep.
And I got yelled at by like 50 people saying,
well, you are kind of a jerk.
I guess sometimes, but I got yelled at, and people are like, where did you get that from? That's not that you don't have a reliable source. I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. But I don't know. Who knows? I didn't see anybody say that it wasn't real.
So I've never seen it before. I happen to like the Xbox logo, like I think a lot of people do. That said, I look at that thing and I think to myself, you know, it's kind of softer, cuddlier, if you will, and it almost seems plausible when you think that what Microsoft is trying to do with Xbox is expanded that brand to new markets where, you know, hardcore gaming is not.
But what, like emerging markets?
What's that?
Like emerging markets?
No. I mean, in other words, they want people, when people think Xbox now, if you know what the Xbox is, you're like games.
Yeah, but
right? They have Xbox Music. They have Xbox Video. You know, they want to be the living room play. I mean, they need something that's kind of a softer brand.
But I feel like with Windows Phone 7, that was the problem that they had. They kind of, initially, they had kind of pushed the Xbox services on that thing. And everybody that I knew saying, oh, no, but it's a phone for gamers. And they didn't understand that their Xbox is not just video games. It's not like hardcore video games.
Well, because, you know, when I mean, they make Windows Phone and it has Office on there. It's got SkyDrive integration. It's got Windows Live ID integration, et cetera. You know, Xbox is one of those things in the checklist. And at the time, Xbox meant games. And that's what it was. I mean, in the original version of Windows Phone, we had Xbox Live games. You know, if you flash forward a couple of years now to Windows Phone 8 and to Windows 8 and RT, Xbox is not just games. It is games, but it's also music and it's also video. And it's also these kind of cross-device two-screen experiences like with Smart Glass. And so Xbox has kind of expanded out to be just entertainment.
They have such an advantage with that second screen experience. But I mean, it's all about the second screen experience. We see the Wii U's doing that. We're seeing Sony's going to be doing that. But really, if you look at anybody else, Microsoft has the biggest advantage with second screen experience because they actually have a functioning operating system that's running on a tablet or a phone.
Yeah.
That's a perfect second screen experience. And I can't see them not utilizing that in this next generation Xbox.
Well, I think you hit on something that I think is important where the second screen thing is interesting. It's inherently interesting. So you walk into your living room, you get your phone or your tablet, you're looking for music to play on, and you want to play it through your Xbox. And that's one form of second screen. And so the second screen gives you information about like related artists. It lets you go through the playlist and add and remove songs and all that kind of stuff. And that's cool. You could watch movies and have it bring up information about the actors and yada, yada, yada. And that stuff's all very interesting. But I really do think there's something to a multi-screen experience that is what you described, which is you're playing a game and now you can take it with you and you can play a little bit more on the commute to work. And then you can play it on your computer and then you can play it again on your phone and then you can pick it up again and play it on the console. And not every single game will work that well, in that kind of scenario. But that is one area where Microsoft has something that no one else has.
Listen, you're not going to be doing, you're not going to be playing Call of Duty, obviously, on a Surface, but there are plenty of games out there. Like,
I don't know, maybe.
In your case, yeah, I think so. But like a perfect game for this, okay? And it's an older game, Castle Crashers. Mm-hmm. 5-year-olds play it, but it's one of my favorite games on Xbox because I'm totally disconnected from the gaming thing.
Yeah,
I could pick up my RT tablet, play it on there. Okay, you know what? Now I'm home. I could play it on my Xbox. And it'll pick up where I was. I mean, that's a simple thing to do because the experience is going to be nearly identical no matter where I'm playing it. I don't think... and the library that they have far exceeds what anybody else could do.
The other thing to think about, too, by the way, is... and because as soon as you describe this scenario, people will instantly start trying to pick it apart. And actually, you kind of did it too, right? You're like, well, you wouldn't play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But because that's the natural, that's sort of the correct response. But remember that before
I don't want to be
there
called
was
an idiot
a
again, Paul.
multi-touch device like an iPhone, that games like Angry Birds never occurred to anybody, or those the games where you're always running, like Temple Run, where you're running off into the distance, or those sideways scrollers where it just moves continually and you keep going.
Well, like
right?
Mario, yeah.
Okay. No, well, but in other words, you don't have to do anything. It's going to keep.
It's going to do it on its own. Okay.
You need to keep jumping or you die. That kind of thing. Those are games that never would have existed without a multi-touch screen. That it just doesn't. It's not going to happen. So the creation of the device itself is what triggers this new kind of game. And so when you start talking about a multi-screen experience where there's a potential for a phone, a tablet, a traditional PC perhaps, and an Xbox, all of which potentially have different forms of interactions, I think that too will generate a new type of game that we can't imagine today because we're not creative, that just the existence of it will trigger new types of games, just like multi-touch screens did. So, before you kind of poo-poo it, let's flash forward a couple of years because I wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
No, I'm talking. Okay, let's conceptualize a controller. How would you do all of that on a piece of glass unless you attach a device to it? I mean, that's the other concept. But
Sure.
I'm sure you would do that. You would attach something and play it.
I mean, that's a fairly simple fix for the problem I just described, which is make a controller.
I mean,
in other words, you
that.
play a game on an Xbox with a hand controller. I've always imagined an Xbox controller with a screen popped off the back of it. Why can't this be the console? I mean, I suppose it would not be hard to make a Xbox style controller that attached to a tablet or a phone.
See, what I think and what I would conceptualize for the next generation Xbox would be they are not going to. The primary shift in the business is going to be entertainment all around and casual gaming. Casual gaming has been the market has been taken over by the iPad and the iPhone. That's who's a casual gamer now. The people that would go out and buy a game every couple months and play it for Christmas are not really seeking the Xbox anymore. I waited online for the Xbox. I waited online for the PlayStation 3. Would I do it again? Okay, maybe I'd do it again, but my wife's not going to wait.
Say, well, yes. But
okay, that's a stupid analogy, and I'm just taking it back, and we're just going to forget I ever said that. But, okay, so someone that's not really into gaming anymore is not going to go wait online 3 hours to get it, just to have it, where they probably would have with the original Xbox. Because it's a new idea. I think the gaming, I guess the fix that you would get from gaming is now met by things like the iPad and playing Angry Birds, where before maybe you would have played, Street Fighter on your Xbox, and that would be the game that you would play.
Yeah, I haven't gotten an update on this in a month or so, but the last I had heard was that Microsoft's original plan for the next Xbox was for there to be two versions of the console, one of which would just be a set-top box, like a Netflix or what do you call it, a
Roku
device or.
But isn't
whatever.
that confusing? I mean, I find that.
Well, they're not doing it. So,
thank God.
They're just making the console. So they originally were going to have the product, be cut in half, where you could have a version that was everything but the games, And that's the type of thing you hear it and you think, that's not really a smart idea. And so they're not actually doing that anymore. At least they weren't last I heard. So,
I mean, it's almost the same problem that I see with having the iPad 2 on the market for Apple. Someone goes in and wants an iPad, and not the iPad. Let's say the iPod Touch. You want to get an iPod Touch for Christmas. Someone goes to buy you an iPod Touch. What are they going to do? The common thing is they're going to pick the one that's least expensive, and that's an older generation thing, and it's totally limited compared to what you're able to do now.
Right. I think the Xbox thing would be even more dramatic of a change. I mean,
can you imagine?
The problem with the consoles is that unlike an iPod Touch, it's not designed to be used for a year or two and then tossed. These things last.
But I mean, can you imagine that Christmas rush where people are going and buying the dummy Xbox, just a set-top box version of Xbox? Because that's what's only available. Everything is sold out. The kid unveils it, and you can't play games on this thing. or it's limited. You
Sure,
could only
sure.
play, whatever.
Right.
The worst Christmas ever.
Yep.
The worst. Why don't we take a little break and talk about our sponsor, Carbonite Online Backup. I've spoken about this a couple times. My wife has a laptop, which everybody knows now. It's a Lenovo because I've said it every single week. And I installed Carbonite on there because she had a different Lenovo for years. And the way that we always replaced her computer is when the computer died. And when the computer dies, guess what happens? You lose your data because she's not backing anything up on the cloud, or she wasn't backing it up on a flash drive. Well, with Carbonite, it's easy, it's automatic, it's continual, and unlimited. So no matter how many files you have, you're able to back it up there. And the great part about it is that it starts at $59. Try it for free at Carbonite.com and use offer code WhatTheTech and get 2 bonus months with purchase, which is great. You're getting 14 months. What's the problem with that? If you get a virus, if you you break your computer, like throw it down the stairs, like I know some people that have, no need to worry. You could take your computer, toss it out the window if you want. Your files are safe somewhere in the cloud via Carbonite. Again, Carbonite Online Backup. Use offer code WhatTheTech and get 2 bonus months with purchase. I want to thank Carbonite for supporting What the Tech. I actually throw my computer down the stairs on a regular basis, Paul. I don't know if you know that.
Sure.
Macs, PCs, Linux, doesn't matter. Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows ME. Who knows? I have Carbonite, so I'm okay. I kind of want to touch on this a little bit more because the idea that we're going to almost have the same experience in the living room is very exciting to me. But how limited of an experience will it be compared to my tablet and my Windows 8, desktop?
What experience?
An Xbox an experience on the Xbox compared to the experience on Windows RT. Can I look forward to saying, okay, you know what? I'm looking at Windows RT here and I'm looking at the Xbox here. This makes sense to me. It's the same thing.
Right.
I don't know. I'm hoping that's the concept because I think the UI would work perfectly on television. I just don't know.
I've always thought that. The first time I saw it, I thought this is perfect for TV.
Yeah. I don't know if that is something that they are going to do because I feel like they don't consider it the same people.
They think they're people.
They think they're people. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know I have no idea about that kind of stuff. But, I was thinking through this as you were talking about Carbonite there. And it occurred to me that, the more obvious scenario and the one that will probably be more commonplace when you go from device to device is that thing that's sort of possible today, but is not very elegant, where you're watching something on one device and you hand it off to the other, And Microsoft does demos like that. In fact, I did one on stage in New Zealand a couple of months ago, but it's a fairly limited thing. It has to be, content in the store, and there's a lot of rules and so forth. But it would be interesting to be able to, whatever it is, buy a season of Game of Thrones or something like that, or rent a movie, and you're watching it before you go to bed, and you're like, I'm exhausted, I'll finish this in the morning, and then on your commute you watch it on your phone or your tablet or whatever. I think that kind of thing is more relevant than, details about, will the UI be exactly the same, or, the multi-screen gaming thing, which I do think is all going to happen. But I think ultimately what this is really about is the entertainment stuff. And hopefully that's what they get right.
So that kind of leads into something that I want to talk about, and that's content consumption. That we always discuss this here. And Verizon Fios said that they are looking to go a la carte. And this brought up an interesting thing for me.
A la carte on what?
On channels. You're going to be able to pick the channels that you want. And it's interesting that they're talking about this because I for years we've heard about this, and I never really thought we would have this. But with something like the Xbox, I could see them doing that, where you say, okay, I want these channels on here, and that's all you get.
It's a slippery little slope there.
You think so? I mean, think about it. I mean, they're kind of doing that, right? They're kind of doing that now, where you have a limited selection.
I mean, why even divide it like that? Why not just divide it down to shows? You could pay a la carte just for the shows you want. I mean, I guess there's a lot of different ways to do it.
I think the Xbox is going to be that device, the next generation device that kind of changes the way that that we access this content. I just don't know if the cable companies are going to want to.
Cable companies, just like wireless carriers, need to become comfortable with the fact that they are dumb data providers, and they need to stop worrying about this stuff, because a lot of people can get all of the video content they need from Netflix, or some combination of Netflix plus YouTube plus Hulu plus something else, whatever. I mean, it's only a matter of time before the model is not we line up in front of the TV on Thursday night to watch Seinfeld, but instead Netflix or Amazon or some combination of services release the entire season of a TV show like Netflix just did with House of Cards, and you watch it on your own schedule. I said someone had mentioned HBO. I heard that HBO was talking about making HBO Go available to non-subscribers, that they could just pay for the electronic access to that. They could watch these shows on their iPads, their Xbox 360s, whatever.
How much would you pay for that, Paul?
Well, that's
the problem.
That gets into a tough area.
I wouldn't pay $10.
We already pay. We pay Verizon hundreds of dollars every month. Now, granted, it's for a variety of services. It's kind of hard to say, but this is something. I had my wife look at what we were paying for subscription services earlier this year. This is something I intended to do.
I'm curious because I was going to ask you how much are you paying for all the Verizon stuff and all anything that media driven.
I mean, I don't have the figures off the top of my head. I can tell you that for Verizon, of course, we pay for some kind of a family plan on cell phones. I think there were 5 phones in there. We get Fios internet. We have 2 landlines, which we can't get rid of because every time we try, the bill goes up magically unless we keep the phones. I don't know.
That's
and
amazing.
We also have the TV service, of course. So
my TV service is $250 a month.
Yeah.
For Fios TV, and that's with one internet line. The other internet line is another $80 a month. But let's talk about the cable, right? So we're looking at $250 a month for something that I use probably 2 hours a night. And that's if I'm watching something on cable. Right. I think that's the problem with it, But how do we justify keeping it? That's the thing. If I told you, Paul, it's going to be whatever, I'm going to offer you a service that you need, right? You want this, but you're going to give me $250 a month, and you're only going to be able to use it once an hour. You're only going to use it 1 hour a day. Would you pay $250 for that, or would you say, screw this, I don't need this, I'll figure out another way to do it?
I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a tough one.
It's embedded
this stuff
in us.
It's changing very rapidly, though. That's the thing. That's why it's kind of hard to say. Right now, for example, I mentioned House of Cards and Netflix. Right now, that's basically the only TV series that's sort of like that. There are more coming. There may be 1 or 2 others that are out there, but Arrested Development's coming. Amazon's got shows coming. This stuff is going to change the way we consume video content yet again, and so. I can't say. I mean, we've done things like, for example, we wanted to watch Dexter when it came back last fall, and so we temporarily subscribed to Showtime.
I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and you pay for that for a couple months.
Yeah,
and you get Showtime, and then you watch Dexter, and I think we kept it for a little while longer. We watched. I can't remember what the other one was. We watched another series, but once it was over, like, okay, that's it.
You were done.
Yeah, and HBO, we've actually ended up keeping HBO for whatever reason, because there's a variety of shows on HBO that we watch, and we do catch up on older series, from the past that we hadn't watched too. So HBO we've actually kept, but you could kind of picture doing that as well. Like Game of Thrones is coming back in April. Maybe you didn't pay for HBO over the winter, and now it's coming back, and you want to watch it again. There's no reason why you can't go in and out. So that's the other thing. I mean, people hear like these monthly bills, and they think, oh my God,
But I mean, it does build up. I mean, if you look at that, I'm paying look, $250 a month for Fios, plus another $10 a month for Hulu, plus another $10 a month for Netflix and Amazon Prime. Let's add that on top of that, and
but
whatever else.
Let's step back from the cliff for a second.
Okay.
So, T-Mobile, as you know, went to a non-subscription model for wireless, right? They just announced this, right?
Kind of, sort of, right? Yeah, there's no contract, but you could get a discounted rate, but they're going to put it in like the iPhone. They're going to charge you. You could either pay upfront $580 for the iPhone, or you could do $99 upfront plus an extra $20 a month every month.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that they're offering is unlimited data plus tethering plus texting for $50 a month, right? And right now you're thinking, okay, it's T-Mobile. Like, what are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. But for a lot of people in whatever areas they may live in, and of course someday they're going to have real LTE and all that kind of stuff, whatever, that could be like everything. That could literally be everything they need. That is how they get their internet into the house. They can tether their computer. They're watching TV shows off of their computer using, Netflix. I mean, you get to a point. It doesn't have to be $250 a month plus $200 of subscription services. It could be $50 a month plus a couple of things like Netflix or Hulu Plus or whatever. So I actually think that the way that this goes is down, not up. That in the meantime, obviously we have to pay attention because we're on the cusp of this. I mean, so we're still paying for things the old-fashioned way, but I'm not a college student. So if I was in a college dorm room, I wouldn't be paying for cable. I wouldn't be paying, you know what I mean? Like we'd be sharing internet. We'd be doing all that kind of stuff.
But so. I could see the cable industry shifting to, and I'm going to play this out for you, to a totally different direction. Let's say you want to have cable. Well, there could possibly be a Verizon app on the Xbox, and you purchase the Verizon app only on the Xbox, and you get maybe a limited selection of high-def channels. Maybe instead of getting 50 high-def channels, you're getting 35 high-def channels, and it's $60 or $50 a month, whatever it is, but it's extremely limited. Then you could do why doesn't let me say it again. I'm thinking about it in my head, and I'm coming up with extra thoughts. Why can't Xbox be the provider? Why can't Microsoft be the provider and they bundle all these things for you? Like if you want to get their premium video package, they'll bundle Hulu, Amazon, and let's say Hulu and Netflix into one, and instead of being $20 a month, it's going to be $18 a month for you to get it through them. Then you could add a cable channel to that on top of that. Why can't they be the provider instead of the cable company? The cable company should just be a pipe.
I think they will be. That's what I'm saying. That the wireless carriers and the cable providers are eventually going to become pipes. And that drives them crazy because right now they're the gatekeepers. But, they are, in fact, the reason it's so expensive, so artificially expensive, that they force you to get certain bundles now to get certain channels. And, it's just stupid. This is an
the cable companies. If a Viacom or Universal turns around and says, you know what, we're going to offer a bundled package, all the Viacom stations, here you go, $10 a month, and all the Universal stations, here you go, $10 a month. They're done.
I think that Microsoft has this thing called Xbox Music Pass, which almost no one subscribes to, but is excellent if you like music. Why don't they have an Xbox Video Pass, right? And the reason is licensing, and this is just one of those models where the companies are uncomfortable with it, and they're going to have to get there. But you can imagine an Xbox Video Pass. It was maybe $30 a month. That was X number of what are they called? Channels, I guess, or whatever. Stations, whatever, networks. Where, as with Music Pass, you've got or as with HBO Go, but just for these networks, you've got access to their entire collection of TV shows going back to whenever they started, that you can watch on demand at any time. And you can go back and you can watch Lost, you can watch Happy Days or Magnum PI or whatever it was you're into, or whatever it is you're into, at any time, in any order, wherever you are, on any device. I think we've talked about this before, how silly it is that, you subscribe to something at home and you have to access it like at home.
At home.
Why is this thing tied to your TV set? It should be tied to you.
Because you know what they think everybody's going to do? Share their passwords with everybody.
Oh, okay, but obviously there are ways around it.
I'll give you a perfect example. The pay-per-view model is one of the most dysfunctional models that exists currently.
Yeah.
It baffles me how sporting, like let's say mixed martial arts or professional wrestling, they are stuck in this model with pay-per-view. Boxing also, where they're taking $70 to watch this event.
You know what? You don't have to worry. This is going to change. I'm telling you. Louis C.K. last year put on a comedy special where he let people pay for it however they wanted. People bought it.
Yeah.
I think he made like $1 million or something. I mean, he made
a ton of money.
Doing it.
Ton of money.
That is the kind of disruptive thing that is going to put an end to what you're describing. And eventually, someone is going to do the Louis C.K. thing with a prize fight, with a race, with a whatever. And guess what? It's going to work. And, it's just like electronic publishing of books versus paper books, or, music subscription services versus buying a CD. Yeah. It's going to happen.
The TV model is slowly, falling apart. The model that the TV industry has kind of had in place, and the cable industry that has had in place, is kind of falling apart. And we saw the first awful move they really made was on-demand programming and how backwards it is.
Sure.
The fact that they are not providing, the cable company, along with, I guess, the networks, are not providing all their content. I like that Morgan Freeman documentary on Science Channel.
Yep.
In and Through the Wormhole. I love that show. It's not on demand. Right.
Oh, by the way,
why not?
There is nothing more broken than cable TV. So, for example, we were watching that show Vikings, and so I think we watched the first 2 episodes. Whatever, we missed the third one. I think it recorded, but the recording got overwritten because my kids had a bunch of stuff on there, or whatever it was. And so I said, well, it's got to be on demand, and the interface is so terrible you can't actually find it, but when you search for it, it exists. I made like a bookmark for it, and so one night we went and we thought, well, this will be good because it's like when you record something and you skip over the commercials. I'm watching it 2 weeks later on demand. It's only gonna be 40 minutes because there's no commercials. This will be great. But you know what they do on demand with this stupid thing? They put the commercials in and they turn off the ability to fast forward.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
But you know what?
Seriously?
Paul, I could still tolerate that. What I cannot tolerate is I've been watching that show, The Following, and I think I mentioned this last week.
Mm-hmm.
My wife saw the first episode at her mom's a couple weeks ago. She goes, you know what? Let's watch them. So we'll watch it again, and you'll catch up. It was up to like episode 4. What do they do every week? They remove one episode.
Oh, that's the other thing.
So it's starting at now. It's like episode 4.
This is why this electronic model makes so much more sense.
It does make sense. Another model that somebody just reminded me. They gave me an example, and I want your opinion on this, and kind of go back to the wrestling that referenced from early in the show. The WWE has been trying to launch their own network, a channel. It's going to have a HBO type model where you're going to subscribe to it. In order for that network to be successful, by the way, it was supposed to launch last year and they scrapped it. And again, they said next 2014 at this point because they cannot figure out a way how to make money with this. They have to have an estimated 5 million subscribers that are paying them $12.99 a month in order to break even. On the other hand, 5 million subscribers in order to break even for the network. Okay. Just break even. There's no gains. There aren't 5 million wrestling fans that watch every week. There's about 2 to 3 million people that tune in every week. So your model, it's not going to happen. At most, maybe you'll get 700,000. I mean, and that I'm being pretty liberal with that number. But on the other hand, they're doing some phenomenal stuff online where they partnered up with YouTube and they're putting their content on YouTube. Their content's on Hulu. You could watch online. And I'm thinking, why can't they just bring that entire model for the network, put it online, say $10 a month, you have access to the WWE whatever it is. Everything is available. All our archives are available. And we're going to be on Roku. We're going to be on Xbox. We're going to be on PlayStation. Yep. And you just subscribe.
Yep.
I guarantee you, people that
it will happen.
People that are not currently watching wrestling will say, you know what?
By the way, the reason it hasn't happened is because of the cable companies. I guarantee it. That these guys have created this Byzantine set of agreements and contracts and whatever, and they are what is holding this up. And it will change. And shows like House of Cards and whatever else are the little things that chip away, especially when you see something like that. This wasn't filmed with a handy cam in someone's backyard. It's Kevin Spacey HD, beautiful quality, excellent actors, excellent storyline.
I mean, it's a network
really
quality television
it's
show.
HBO. It's an HBO or Showtime type thing. So this is going to happen. There is no way around it. Just that, the music industry, it almost had to fall apart for it to come back and start to make sense again. And I think the music industry is going to make sense again from a financial perspective. It's just not the same business that it was before.
No,
and it's going to happen to.
No,
TV.
it's not. And I'll tell you, I just looked at my library and how many in iTunes now it shows your entire library of purchases and it'll say like how many things you've bought. Yep. I was looking at how many over the last, I guess, since I got my Mac, I've been buying stuff on iTunes. Over the last 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 5 years.
Yep.
I have bought about 600 songs. 600. Okay. I mean, I bought full albums too, but 600 total songs. Those
$600.
are $600.
That would buy you 6 years of listening to every song ever recorded, basically, on Xbox Music.
On Xbox Music. But the fact that it still took them this long to accept downloadable media, DRM-free media, to kind of give it a, like, what do you mean you don't want to buy a CD? No, you need to buy a CD. It's $600 that the record labels got that I normally would not have spent. I could have easily gone and pirated this stuff, and it wouldn't have affected anybody. But I bought the music.
Oh, but that's why this is so beautiful. There are always going to be people who steal things, but I mean, you provide services that provide high quality whatever content, music, video, whatever, at a reasonable price, and oh my God, there's an audience,
But I think with video, how do you put a price on video? How do you have a video service like that?
That's why this is broken. The price is not for a video. And video is a little bit different from music. People tend to listen to the same album, the same song, the same playlist over and over again.
You're right. The price should never be for a video. It should never be for that. It should be a package.
I'm not saying you should never buy a movie. I buy more. I probably have bought more movies electronically than I'd be comfortable admitting to. But, most movies, most TV, and certainly the vast majority of TV shows, you watch once, And by the way, maybe, let's say there's a movie you don't watch once. Let's say this is a movie you're going to watch 3 times over the next 10 years. Why not just rent it every time? I mean, why not just give Apple or Microsoft or Amazon or whoever $3 to watch this thing in HD 3 times? Like, why do you have to own it?
But see, they're not doing that.
What's the advantage of that?
I think Amazon is a perfect example of that model where they have limited seasons. Some seasons are available with Prime to stream it. Mm-hmm. And if you want to watch the latest season, guess what? Fork it up. You got to buy it.
Sure. Well, no, of course.
But it doesn't make sense to me. Why not? You know what? If that's what you want to do, why not have a Prime Plus and all that's accessible for $20 a month now?
Yeah.
A lot of people do
Everyone always wants the Plus service.
Everybody wants
that. Yeah.
Do you think they're going to, with Xbox Music, with streaming music, right now, Apple's not doing that, which I believe they're going to be going to it. How would they do it with film, with television? Would they have to kind of follow the same model?
I think it's what I just described. I mean, there's a monthly fee. A certain number of networks are involved. Maybe more come online over time. And, it's like the way it works now with Netflix or Hulu Plus, or Amazon now increasingly. Like, some content ends up everywhere. Some content ends up exclusive to one service. That's something we iron out over time. But there's no reason why we can't. I mean, that is what Netflix is essentially. The thing that's missing from Netflix today is the current TV show stuff. Yeah. Where, in other words, that there's like a Netflix Pro where it's all of the new content from ABC, NBC, CBS, and whatever cable networks.
And I don't see Netflix or any of them getting that content. What I do see is the networks charging you to access that on whatever device you want to have.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, however they do it. I'm just, all I'm saying is we're going to get to it.
I'm excited for that. Have you tried Redbox before we wrap it up?
No.
See, that, again, it's a Verizon, I guess.
Well, Redbox is this is the DVD rental service now. They have a streaming service that's like that.
Powered by Verizon.
Powered by Verizon.
That's what it's because Verizon bought them. But again, there's nothing Verizon like about this application. What they really should do is have every Verizon Fios box now has Redbox on it. Here's an incentive.
Absolutely. And in a perfect world, Verizon would actually have competitors. And they would do that, and they offer it for free. Yeah. And then push Verizon to do similar things. So
we get really worked up when it comes to this. We get really.
It's going to happen. It's just going to happen.
It drives
by the way,
me crazy.
To go back to my story about the History Channel, I forget the other show.
Ancient Aliens.
No, it wasn't on the History Channel. There were 2 shows we were going to watch at night, and both of them we had bookmarked on demand. And in both cases, those shows were only available with commercials. And my solution to this problem was, screw these guys. I'm going to pay $2 and rent it, and from wherever we did it, Amazon or whatever. And I don't like burn cash or anything, but I mean, I don't find this stuff to be prohibitively expensive and don't understand why we have a model where what Fios is doing is okay. It makes no sense to me. I pay this company so much money.
I don't even think it makes sense to them. I think they just do it because they feel like if they give you everything that you want,
unacceptable.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so bizarre. Fios this year was supposed to have these little set-top boxes like Roku's that they were saying you're going to be able to just put in whatever room you want. It's going to be far cheaper than getting those big boxes. Never showed up. Never came.
Yeah, you know why?
Why?
Because that would be good for customers.
Yeah.
Who is doing that, by the way, is TiVo. And that's something here. There's another thing where you could spend a little more money. You could get like a better experience. And they're doing that secondary room thing where you can pump that content from your TiVo into other rooms. And that's something I'm thinking about. I mean, TiVo's not perfect for a variety of reasons, but I think that's important. I
just want something that works, that makes sense. That's all I want.
Yeah, I know. You're so unreasonable. What's wrong with you?
I know. I'm insane. Paul, we're out of time.
All right.
We have to go. We're going to get fined by the station if we don't get off the air.
Right. Our episode will be available later on demand with extra commercials.
Yeah, if you want to watch this, we'll be available. Yeah, no, you can't skip over my ads for Carbonite and Squarespace.
Yep.
But we will be deleting this show after 24 hours.
That's right, yeah. But, randomly deleting some of the shows. You'll never know which ones will be gone.
We'll have episode 136, and the next episode will be 149.
Yep.
If you want to watch episode 1, you got to pay up. $9.95 a month to watch the first season of What the Tech.
Right.
Paul's website is winsupersite.com. A very busy last couple days. The comments have been like insanely busy.
I have been.
I actually do
really
go on your site. Yeah. I go on your site every day, and a lot of Windows 8 Blue stuff. Yep. You actually gave a nice hands-on tour with Blue. Here it is. So you showed what it looks like, and wow, it looks like Windows 8.
It does. It's
yeah.
Interesting how it looks like. Yeah.
Also, Paul does a phenomenal show called Windows Weekly. I'm sure all of you are fully aware of that, with Mary Jo Foley and Leah Laporte every Thursday at 2 p.m. East on the Twit Network. And if you miss any portion of the show, guys, of course, you can go to our website, gfknetwork.com. You can catch it there. Catch it on winsupersite.com because Paul posted as well. And I encourage each and every one of you to subscribe to the show on iTunes, on Windows Phone, or whatever other application you're using to get your podcasts. And we won't charge you for this. We're giving it away totally for free, unlike the cable companies. We'll see y'all next week, guys, on What the Tech. Good night, everybody.